So imagine now that you have you've selected a wife. You've selected someone, a potential wife, yes, and you want to go and meet them. So tomorrow is your meeting. Let me tell you what you need to do. So what you need to do is you need to list. I want you to list, okay, 5 questions that you will ask the person who you're going to meet. Okay? And this is an interesting exercise. I want you to find questions that are universal, that you're going to all ask. Do you understand this? So I don't want it to be specific to a female, specific to a male. I want you to go and ask the top 5 questions each. Okay? And then inshallah we'll gather again. I'll give you around 5 minutes. Yeah, so I guess what we can do for this group is we can say, what are the main things you look for in a spouse in terms of religion, in terms of the deen? Because I think you guys also, and how does how does that actually help you to connect to the spouse in when you get married? So I think that's a fundamental question. I really do think this is a really, really important question. So a question about really what do you look for in a potential spouse in terms of your iman, in terms of their deen. So some people might say, well, look, I really want you to, if a male, I say, look, my priorities are that we've got to pray together. We've got to always pray together and make sure our children always pray together. And we've got to grow and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together. Okay? And I want that relationship. I want you to help me to grow to Allah, get closer to Allah. And I want to help you as well to get closer to Allah. I want us both to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And so how do you see this happening? Do you agree with me? That's a very nice question. Yeah. How do you see we both get closer to God? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this question here. So at the end, we can have 4 or 5 really good concrete questions. So number 1 is, how do you see us together getting closer to God? Isn't that a really nice question? Huh? How do you see we both get closer to Allah? And then you can explore the avenues of how do you get closer to Allah. Well, you can say, well, I really want you to take me to Hajj. That's a priority. That's beautiful. I really want us to build, help charity. We want to give monthly 50 euros to the poor people, of the orphans. That's beautiful. I want we both to work hard on our salah, to focus on our salah, to get closer to Allah. I want us both to memorize verses of the Quran. We teach each other, we remind each other about the verses of the Quran. Let's have a plan. So you test him and he tests you about whether you have ideas. Because if you don't have any ideas, it means it isn't really a priority for you. It isn't like, yeah, maybe, yeah, it's okay, yeah, maybe. You can sense whether they are people or God-centric or not, people of God or not. Do you guys agree, disagree? Tell me if you disagree. Yeah, and I really, 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 really hope you ask this question: how can you help me to get closer to God? Because that's the only thing that matters, really. Is how can I get closer to Allah? Is that okay? So I'm going to take that question, if you guys agree, I'll take that question as from you guys. All right? So let's go with number 2, if you guys in agreement, and we say, let's say, yeah, let's say, what does our religion and research say about ways to we can say ways to tackle ahsant, yeah, conflict resolutions. So basically the idea here, it's like a research question. They can go and really think about it more and more. Doesn't, you know, it sounds like an interview question, but it isn't. You can say it in a different way. But it's basically you're trying to have a discussion and say, look, you know, let's try to find out what does our religion say about conflict resolution? Bring Islam into this, okay? Bring your religion into this, and also what research says about conflict resolution, you know. And you can, both of you have, like, you know, a 1 hour talk and debate about conflict resolution, and you can say, well, you know, what in a scenario where, you know, for example, start to give examples and say, well, okay, one scenario where, you know, I want my child to go to an Islamic school. You don't want the child to go to an Islamic. You want her to go to a public school, okay? And because you say no, she needs to engage in the community, in the society in general, and I say no, I need to protect her from society, all right? And we have a conflict in this. How do you think we should resolve this? You know, what is the best way? And then let's just discuss about these things. So you open that field of conflict resolution from, you know, Islamic point of view and from a research point of view, okay? And then next meeting you come and just talk about it. You know, these are concrete issues that you will have conflicts, but how are you going to try and tackle these particular conflicts? Are you okay with this question? You can tell me no, by the way. You don't have to say yes. You want to reword it? Is this a good question for this whole table to have? Are you okay with that? Yeah? You guys okay with this table? This question? Yeah? Yeah.
Question okay with the table?
Yeah. Are you okay with the table? Yeah. So that's why I've changed it a bit. So that's why I'm saying, are you okay with this?
On purpose.
Yes. Because I think you've got to know what the religion says. Don't leave religion out of things. You've got to know what Islam says about conflict resolution.
It doesn't say anything about the person you're trying to get to know.
No, yeah, but you've got to. You're right, absolutely right. But you've got to try and find out. Do they have the same thing with the first question? How do you see us close? You find out from them if they are into this field and they really understand how to get closer to Allah, or they understand how to resolve conflicts. You see, it's really important. The way that I'm trying to do this is I want people to think. I want people to use their intellect. So with these 2 questions, you've got to try to really think hard. And when you think, whatever answer you bring, it shows whether you are really into this or not. So whenever next time she comes, and she comes up with, says, well, look, this is really interesting. The Prophet says this about conflict resolution, that, you know, and I've researched this and that. It shows that they're really into this. You know, I've done this as teaching. When you teach someone and you have students and you set them homework, there are some who do really well in this particular set of questions, research questions, and some say one answer. They give one answer because they're just not really bothered in trying to really find out. You see how serious they are in really finding out how to do look, you can't find out how good they are in conflict resolution. I'm trying to be realistic. How will you find out? You're going to ask them, okay, tell me how good you are in conflict resolution. Yeah, well, okay, if you get angry, I'm not going to shout back and stuff like that. You know, as the comment said before, it's all just like, you know, it's difficult. I want to find the seriousness by going to do research, coming back and saying, well, look, this is what I found out, and this is from my knowledge, and this is what we should do in a relation. You can sense that. You've got to use your intellect as well. You've got to sense whether she is serious about conflict resolution. And then later on, if you do get married, you remember those days. You say, look, remember when we talked about this conflict and you said, this is what we're supposed to do, A, B, and C. Yeah, it's about really trying to find seriousness. The same thing with if someone doesn't really have a priority about God, they really want someone who will make them laugh and make them happy and stuff like that. When they come back to you and they say, well, okay, maybe we can, you know, like go to the mosque together. That's it, you know, but you gauge a bit of like, you know, they're not that into God and finding more about God and you know, the purpose of marriage. If someone's serious about something, they'll come up with concrete stuff. Trust me on this. I know. I've seen people, how they react to things. Their reaction is very important. That is just a suggestion, up to you guys. Yeah? You okay with this question? All right, we move to that one and then. So, again, with this question, what we want to find out is what was the type of relationship between Imam Ali and Fatima al-Zahra. Okay, so there are narrations that say Imam Ali salamullah alayhi used to help in the house. You know, he used to go and get the wood for the fire. He used to clean the floor, sweep the floor. Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha used to try to you know, cook a meal and things like that. So there was a relationship. What about in terms of their communication? Also, focus on the family of how did they bring their children. So in terms of the Hassan, Hussein, and the other children, how did they relate to them? What is the type of sort of the way that they parented and things like that. So trying to put Fatima al-Zahra salamullahi alayha and Imam Ali as the role model. Okay, they are the role model of a family. Can you see that we can actually work hard to make sure that, of course, it's different times, but make sure that they are our role model. What this will bring you is whether this potential spouse is actually in touch with the Ahlalbait salamullahi alayhim, and also whether they are in touch with trying to, maybe they'll argue and say, I've seen people argue and say, Baba, this is 1,400 years ago. We've got to really, I really think we should move on. You know, the way they used to parent is different. The way they, you know, family for them is different and things like that. Now is different. So just try to really find out from their perspective, how would they foresee this, you know, when they reflect on the relationship or that family of Ali ibn Abi Talib at this time. Okay? And also, by the way, Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima al-Zahra, they had a mentor. So you can come and, you know, who was the Prophet. But, you know, you can say in you know, look, you know, we need a mentor. Maybe she will come and back and say, or he or she will come and say, no, I don't want anyone to interfere in our relationship, in our family affairs. So for example, in parenting or in when we have conflicts and stuff like that, you want a mentor, correct? So you say, look, they had a mentor, so we should have a mentor. We should select someone in the community who is a mentor for us. And then you see his or her reaction. So try to delve into the world of Ali ibn Abi Talib and Fatima al-Zahra. There's really, really interesting family dynamics there, okay? That we make them our role model. And again, with this question, it connects you to religion. Are you seeing a trend here? That I'm not leaving a question without getting in touch with our religion. There's no question here that is out of touch. Everything goes back to, yes, you can talk about modern stuff, you can talk about, but everything goes back to Allah, goes back to our religion, goes back to Islam, goes back to Ahlalbait. If we are true mu'mineen. Yeah. Is that okay? Do you guys think this is an okay question? Any disagreement? Huh? Okay. Can we have, lastly, you guys? I think 10 years is more realistic than 5 years. I think 10 years, having that objective for 10 years is better than 5 years. Because 5 years is, you want to see because this is a relationship that's going to be there for a very long time. Okay. And with that particular question, what you'll do is emphasize on the Muslim family. So with a Muslim family, there's going to be some obstacles. It's that society here, especially with the rise of the far right, the rise of things like that, there are certain things that might happen that will interfere. So what she will say, or he will say, look, I'm not staying here in Netherlands in 10 years' time. So you'll say, okay, why? It's because you said as a Muslim family, we are going to get targeted. I don't see us staying here. I want to leave within the next few years. I'm leaving the Netherlands. Okay. So then you'll start to find this out from this question. Okay. Or another thing is you'll find out is as a Muslim family, she might say, well, actually, I'm someone who, I don't know if I want to stay as someone who's I want to make sure that I want to take care of my children. I want to take care of because this is what Islam tells me to do. Okay. Or she's more of a career-orientated person. And she'll say, well, you can explore you can ask her, are you actually career-oriented? Do you want to be someone who wants to stay someone who wants to stay at home? Do you want to be, you want to find out more about what's going on out there, so you want to work and things like that? So you can explore this as a Muslim family. And what does Islam say? Okay, in 10 years' time, what is it that I want to get to? So she might say, well, I want to. I work now as a junior, sort of, I don't know, junior engineer, and I want to reach senior level in 10 years' time. So you can see that actually she's career orientated. Or for him, he says, look, I don't really want to reach that senior level. I'm okay with the current wage that I have. So maybe that's a problem for you. And you say, well, actually, what are you going to do the other time? And maybe he'll come and say, look, I want to give my time for others. I want to help others. Money is not that important to me. Okay, I want to help. I'll make sure I satisfy my family with the money. But for me, I want to make sure that I help others and I do charitable stuff. That's a beautiful thing, altruistic. But then, he might say, no, actually, I want us to reach a particular stage in terms of finances. Then you get an idea that this guy is more, his objective is finances and not particularly family. So when you look at that particular area, this question can give you a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things that will give you a clue. Are you okay with this question? Yeah. Are you sure? Or you're not just nodding just to move on? Okay. All right. So these are 4 questions. Okay. Look, your questions are all very good. Okay. And do share them together. You can maybe take a screenshot, whatever. But it's important that you prepare yourself. But the conclusion I will say from this activity is that try to focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Ahlalbait, and your religion when you ask these particular questions. Always bring it back to God. It doesn't necessarily details needs to be about God. Maybe sometimes you say, okay, what about in terms of house? Are we going to buy a house and stuff? You can't relate that to God. I'm not saying every question you ask, but make sure the theme, you know where your direction is. Your direction is not materialistic life. Your direction is not to stay in this world forever and ever. Your direction is to satisfy God. So if you were to buy a house or buy a flat that satisfies and pleases Allah, then do that. Everything has to go back to God. And you make sure that the spouse you align. Maybe this spouse doesn't really know much about God, but they're willing to know more about God. So give them a chance. But there are people who they're out, they switched off. They're just more towards materialistic. I've seen marriages fail because certain individuals are really materialistic. Like for example, I remember one of the brothers who got to know her, and then she's really into a lot of, the different types of dresses, the different types of shoes. Why didn't her mother saying, why didn't you bring us this when you come? And it's a lot of this jewelry. Why don't you buy her a ring? Why don't you you should buy her a ring from Dubai, you should buy her a ring from this. So all this talkative stuff is all about materialistic things. You get a really good idea about that if you were to ask these particular questions, and make sure they all of them go back to your religion and Allah. That's the only way to make sure that this family, this marriage will be blessed. One of the brothers told me that the engagement, he wanted to engage, but then the engagement didn't happen because they told him that in the marriage ceremony they want dancing and music and things like that. And then he stood at his principles and he said no, and they broke the marriage. And I think that's a good thing, because she really identified her direction from that particular point. Okay? Where, if you want to do ma'siyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you want to go against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from day one of your wedding, you're not really setting a good precedent, are you? Okay? And I say this to the couples. I say this, but unfortunately people don't listen. I know now there's a divorce. At that time, I told, they put so much music and dancing and things. I told them, I said, I don't know if I told them or others, but I said, look, make sure that path is all clean. How many of the weddings you see that when it's adhan time, the bride, okay, I mean, if she has salah, but I'm assuming she might have salah. If the bride and the groom, they go and pray. In her wedding dress, she goes and prays. Or you see they switch off everything and they put on the adhan. And so the whole congregation goes and prays. This is God centricity, right from there. And some people give excuses, say, oh, it's just one day. It's just my wedding day, just, let's relax a bit. But it's not about relaxing. When you're with God, it's not your suffering. This is relaxation when you are with Him. But you remember Him in the most important time of your life. That's such a beautiful thing to do. So you set it right on day one. Okay? And it's very beautiful.